Welcome, everyone. This is the bonus session of the Regenerative Legacy Summit, and I'm pleased to be here with Cam King. Cam King is a founder of Farm Rebel. He has helped hundreds, maybe even in the thousands of people, but definitely in the hundreds of people directly to be able to direct market products profitably. And they've been a gracious sponsor of the previous two summits that we've done, and just have done a great service for the ag industry overall. So welcome, Cam. We're grateful to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Jared. I'm excited to be here. And before we get started, let me say I am also very appreciative of the work that you're doing. It takes a lot of courage in this industry, especially to stand up and say, you know what, I am going to try to find a way to serve other producers, right? I'm going to stand up and share the things that I've learned and try to be not just a beacon, but a source or a resource, right? A source of optimism, a source of information, right? Because I know that you're not standing up here saying that I know everything. What you are standing up here is saying, I do know some things, I have some experiences, and I'm going to connect you with people who have had other experiences and who know other things. And I'm going to be in this way a resource for the entire industry so that together everyone can do better. What do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats. And you are definitely a part of this rising tide. So I just wanted to say how appreciative I am that you are doing the work that you have, let's say you have responded to the call that you felt in your heart. And because we need it, that's what we need in this industry. That's what producers need. We need more of us sharing the things that we've learned, the good things, the bad things, the things that have worked, the things that didn't work. We need more sharing. And so thanks.
Well, you're welcome. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and definitely feel that, it is a call and it is a responsibility. And humbly, gratefully, we're doing the small part that we can. And grateful definitely for the support of the producers and even the ag enthusiasts, the regen ag people who are just wanting to learn more, whether you're a producer or consumer. We welcome you to this program. We hope that you'll find the answers that you need here. Uh, this is going to be a bonus session that you can share with your families, and we hope that you do share with your teams. And we hope that if you, like with all things, if you go into it with the intention, especially with a specific question in mind, it may not be anything that Cam and I say, but I think that you will receive the answer that you're looking for. So with that, we're going to jump into some questions that I have here for Cam. I've known Cam for a few years. We've worked with Grass-Fed Marketing Secrets and now Farm Rebel, and really applaud the work that the company's doing. But how did you get started, Cam? What you started you on the path to helping producers, or to, I guess, tell us what you do and then how you do it, rather than me trying to stumble through it.
Sure, great. So at Farm Rebel, our mission over the next decade is to help 100,000 farms and ranchers get started. Now, what's the definition of get started? That means you might be a fourth generation farm or ranch that you really need to relaunch, right? You really need to get started selling D2C or making more money, whether that's wholesale accounts or selling direct to the consumer. The other definition of getting started is just as it sounds. It's helping people start these businesses, right? Start selling so that you can make money, you can be profitable. The phrase that we like, the one phrase that I think we're known for, and we want to continue to be known for, is profit first. And so it's how do we help producers make profit? How do we help you make more money? And that's what we do. So primarily, we serve producers who are trying to sell their products direct to the consumer. And we could talk about that. I'm sure we will, about why I think it's so important that you sell direct to the consumer. But yeah, so that's what we do. That's who we are, what we care about. That's what we're passionate about. It's helping producers make more money. And
Yeah.
generally that involves selling direct to the consumer. So the way that we got here is in 2014, I started my first grass-fed beef business. And the reason I did that is I was running a tech company that I had founded at the time. And that's my background for about, let's see, 8 or 9 years before we started the beef business, is starting tech companies. But in 2014, my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. And so we just threw ourselves into doing everything possible to try to help him beat that and stay alive. And the one variable that we could control was his nutrition. And so we just went on a rampage looking for how do we find the healthiest food possible to try and help him beat this disease. And we were able to find veggies, we were able to find produce and fruits, but we were not able to find the meat that we wanted, the protein sources. And so about that time, my father-in-law purchased a ranch as an investment property and it had a herd of cattle on it. And I thought one night with him at dinner, I said, "Hey, what's your plans for the cattle? Do you know anything about this business?" And he said, "No." And I, upon learning more about them and how they were raised, like, oh, these are grass fed and they're not being supplemented. And well, we could finish these out and sell these. Long story short, we did not end up selling those first. In fact, that very night, I went to my wife and said, "I think there's something here. We need this product. There have to be other people that want to have this product." And so we decided to start a grass-fed beef business. And yeah, the short of it is it was a long time before those cattle were ready to be finished out and sold. And so in the meantime, over the course of the next 15 months or so, we started selling D2C. We started by sourcing. We made every mistake in the book. But some things went really well. And we were able to kind of figure out the marketing piece. We were able to figure out the how to identify people that wanted the product, how to get in front of them and give them opportunities to buy. And so that went well. And then over the course of the next couple of years, got a lot of messages from a lot of producers that were watching us grow on social media and kind of seeing how fast we were growing and asking, "What in the world are you doing? How are you doing this? Can you help me?" And basically asking for advice.
Mhm.
And so, in the middle of running that beef business, I was trying to help producers and answer questions, and I would do kind of some free coaching calls. And one thing led to another. And in 2000, oh man, 16, 17, right around there, we decided to create a company that was at the time called Grass-Fed Marketing, where we were sharing and teaching. And then in 2018, we created our first program, which is Customers on Demand, which is still around and it's amazing. And we serve currently anywhere between 300 and 400 producers at a time in that program.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's been neat to see that evolve and the influence that you've had as you've stepped into what your calling is to be able to help
Mhm.
people in this industry. And I remember that you shared that at one point that it was kind of a calling that you realized you needed to step away from something that was maybe more sure and known into some unknown territory. Can you talk a little bit about what that looked like
Sure.
um, when you felt that call and like to specifically serve farmers and ranchers?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I think like most of us, we want we have some competing desires. We want to provide for our families, but we also want to do work that we feel called to. We want to do things that we're good at and that we feel called to. And from the time I was in my early 20s, I'd really just been searching for, what's the work that God wants me to do? Where can I contribute my talents and gifts
Yeah,
in a way that allows me to provide for my family? And that led me down many different paths, many different businesses, and ultimately to starting that beef business. And when we started the beef business, I definitely didn't feel like it was my calling. It
mm,
felt necessary. It felt like my dad will probably die. We need to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
mhm.
Um, and so in while building that company, it was, it was in that process that we started just kind of responding to these texts and emails that were coming in from producers asking for help. And I've always loved sharing what I'm learning. I've always loved, the way that I think about it is if I can help someone else avoid either a mistake or frustration or save them pain or save them the angst, right, that often goes along with building a business, then I want to do that because it will give meaning to all of the suffering that I had to endure to get to where I'm at.
Yeah,
And so it was really in that process of serving these other producers that I discovered, like, oh, I think this is the thing that God's asking me to do, that I feel called to do. This is where I can use my gifts and talents and skills to not just provide for my family, but to contribute in a way that feels unique to me. And and yeah, so it's a process, right? It's a process of discovery. I think it was Shakespeare that said, this above all, to thine own self be true.
yeah,
Right. And so you have to know yourself. And the only way to know yourself is to discover who you are by taking action, by moving forwards, by identifying what you think you should be doing, and then taking action to see if that idea was correct. And for most of us, it takes a long time. Now, I'll also say that a lot of producers identified really early in their lives that this is something that they not only want to do, but they feel called to do,
Yeah.
right? To steward over animals, to be a steward over the earth, and to feed people. And that's something that, man, that's an amazing gift, right? What an incredible gift to be able to discover that early in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to so many points in that. In my own story, the calling came at a very young age,
Mm,
and thought that that's what my life would look like, would be stewarding the land and producing livestock. And
mm,
then there kept coming this impression that, okay, there's also a teaching part that you need to do. And I fought against it for quite a while,
mm,
because it's like, but I'm a rancher, and I love it, all aspects of it. And in all honesty, it's a lot easier to do that than to do what I'm doing now.
mm,
Um, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. And so finally, wrote a book, and then started Ag Steward. And it's been neat to see how it's grown. And certainly, as I'm sure you can relate to, the the more influence we have, sometimes the bigger target we become. And I'm sure you've felt that. You felt the arrows in your back as you've kind of pioneered some of these things. And maybe talk a little bit about how you have been able to persevere through some of that, the opposition, whether that be internal opposition, fighting against, you know, a change of paradigm, or the external opposition of other people opposing what you were trying to do.
mm. Yeah, that's a great question. The author, Stephen Pressfield, maybe best known for a book called The War of Art.
Yeah.
Uh, he also has a number of other books that are on the same subject that are I highly recommend them. He calls it resistance, right? The resistance. Anytime that you are trying to move towards a goal, or you're trying to move from a lower plane to a higher plane, you're trying to move from where you are to where you want to be, that there is this, he calls it resistance, right? And you can call it whatever you want, but there is this, he calls it a malign force that acts against us. And it shows up in a voice in our head. It could show up in other external barriers or challenges, obstacles. We all know this. Like anytime, let's say you're trying to get in shape, you want to lose a bunch of weight, you want to add some muscle, you want to have more energy, whatever, it's going to require this hard work, this commitment. Like that little voice in your head that says, just don't go to the gym today, or put it off till next week, or whatever the excuse is. That's resistance. And so, yeah, certainly we all face it, right? It's universal. It's universal. Um, the internal resistance is I like my anonymity. I'm a big introvert. I do not like putting myself out there. It was very, very hard. I felt the call for a couple of years before I responded and put myself out there. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I really like my anonymity. And now that that anonymity has kind of gone away in the last couple of years, specifically within our industry, it's hard because, like you said, that's the internal resistance, right? It's like, man, I want to be small. I want to be all tight in the bud. I don't want to blossom. Blossoming's hard. That's a lot of work. You put yourself out there. And speaking to the external resistance, yeah, you put a target on your back because a target
Yeah.
for criticism, a target for all kinds of stuff, right? Um, but I consider it the price to be paid to have the impact, right? To make the impact or the contribution that I desire to make. Right? I want to share the things that I've learned because they were hard fought. They were hard won. It cost me a lot of, just a lot. We can all relate, right? Building a business is it's really hard. And I think most people outside of our industry can't even fathom how hard it is and how much knowledge it takes and how many skills it requires to be successful as a producer. Right? It's actually mind blowing how much is required to be a successful producer. Like the things that you know, those of you who are watching, the things that you have to know, right? And you have to be able to manage. And whether it's finance and operations and fulfillment and financial planning,
Yeah.
and figuring out all of everything that goes in with raising the animal, with taking care of the land, with planning for definitely months, if not years in advance, even thinking decades down the road,
Yeah.
right? It is just it's extraordinary that anyone can do it, right? Let alone hundreds of thousands of people are doing it.
Yeah. And that's, we think of the connotation, the dumb ranchers and the dumb farmers when I appreciate that you recognize that. Um, yeah, the the things that we kind of take for granted because we grow up learning them. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of art, there's a lot of science, there's a lot of knowledge that it takes to be successful. And
Mhm.
certainly in our industry today, Cam, we're facing some maybe different and unique challenges. I know, if history doesn't repeat itself, it certainly rhymes.
Yeah.
We've faced similar challenges in the past, but what do you see as the most significant challenges that farmers and ranchers are facing in this decade or, kind of post-COVID era?
So I like to focus on things that I can control, right? So it's certainly true that there are external things that we can't control that have an impact on us for either good or bad, right? Positive or negative. And it is also certainly true that most of what we talk about in the industry are the positive external things that we cannot, or the negative external things that we cannot control. I
Yeah,
don't like to focus on those because they take care of themselves and there's nothing that I can do about them, right? I want to focus rather on the things that I can control. And so I'm incredibly optimistic, right? Um, the challenges, I think the biggest challenge is what we choose to believe is possible. I think that's the greatest challenge in the industry is letting go of these old patterns of thoughts, right? These old beliefs that may have been true and may have even been useful in decades past, but are no longer useful,
right.
right? And so I really think the biggest challenges are the same as the biggest opportunities. And it all starts in the mind of the producer, right? Of the business owner.
Yeah, beautifully said. Speak a little bit more about the opportunities that you see.
Mhm.
Definitely we have to be looking for them, but in the context of direct marketing,
Yep.
uh, how wide open is the market right now, and what are the current opportunities that you see having consulted with hundreds of businesses throughout the US? And can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I firmly believe there's never been a better time in the history of agriculture to be a producer, as long as you're willing to sell D2C. Now, why do you have to sell D2C? And let me stake my flag and say, I don't know. I am not an expert by any means on anything outside of the marketing for direct to consumer.
Okay.
Okay. So I won't offer even opinions on wholesale. I won't offer opinions on contracts. I won't offer opinions on typical, cow-calf operations and their business models or any of the other business models. So the only thing that I can speak to with any semblance of, let's say, expertise is going to be the D2C. So the reason that I believe it's the best time ever to be in this business is because it's a few things. Um, One is demand has never been higher. Demand has increased at double digit percentages annually for over 25 years for products such as local, organic, pastured, grass-fed, regenerative. A
Mm-hmm.
double digit percentage increase over 25 years. Like it's hard to find any other examples where that's true in any industry, right? Let's say in the technology space, right? Maybe that, but that's
Yeah.
it. And so when you look at this hockey stick growth, right, up and to the right in demand, I look at that and say, golly, what an opportunity, right? This literally we're living in the greatest opportunity ever. The caveat is that you have to know what business you're in, right? A lot of producers are worried about risk as well, they should be, but they consider risk. I think they make some faulty assumptions about risk. And I'll use a couple quotes to illustrate my point. Um, Warren Buffett said that risk is not knowing what you're doing. Albert Einstein says that you have to first learn the rules of the game and then you have to play better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we marry those two thoughts, those ideas, then in order for a producer to be successful and to de-risk their opportunity that they have to first know what business they're actually in, right? Or as Einstein said, what game are we actually playing? And I would posit that the game that you need to be playing if you want to be profitable and I'm speaking directly to those who want to sell D2C, is you have to be playing the D2C marketing game, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have other things going on. It doesn't mean you're not raising a great product. It doesn't mean that you're not taking care of the land. It doesn't mean that you're not, et cetera, doing all of those other things that are necessary. But the game that you need to play, that you need to learn the rules of and then play well, is marketing. Because without that, nothing else even matters, right? If you have the best product in the world, but nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. You don't even have a product. And so marketing is upstream from everything else. Another way to say that is everything else is downstream from marketing. If you
Okay.
nail the marketing, then you can make a lot of mistakes everywhere else and still make a bunch of money. But the converse cannot be said. It's not true. And
Yeah.
so I'm super optimistic for the people who are willing to acknowledge that, okay, I need to nail the marketing. That's the most important thing. Because if they do, man, life changes if you nail the marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well said. Um, w- with the people that you know, Cam, who would you say are the leaders in the grass-fed industry? And maybe without naming names, just giving the characteristics of these people that are leading kind
Mm.
of this direct to consumer. And I know that you not only work with grass-fed, but grass-fed's probably your biggest uh, group of people
Biggest
that you
of the
work with.
market. Yep.
And so we'll classify them, but it could be anybody in direct to consumer. But who are the leaders? What are their characteristics? What do they have in common? What are they doing? What are they not doing that
Mhm.
make them stand out?
That's a great question, Jared. Um, I will say that the first thing that comes to mind is that they're willing to fall forwards, right? They're willing to fail forwards. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that the walking of man is falling forwards. And the most financially successful producers who are selling D2C, what they all have in common is they're all willing um, to do new things, and they're all willing to take action and to take imperfect action. And I would say they are voracious in their appetite for taking imperfect action, especially when it comes to new things. And I will say also that not every one of the most successful producers that we've worked with, and to give you the range, so we've got people who are just getting started that are, just selling their first dollar D2C, all the way to people, clients of ours that they come to us already doing millions of dollars a year in sales.
Mhm.
And so we've seen, kind of the entire array of D2C businesses, including clients who are doing 10 million plus. Um, And the reason they come to us is because they want a simpler process that they can follow that's scalable, repeatable, and predictable.
Mhm.
And then we give them that. And the most successful of them, they just implement immediately. And usually they're able to implement immediately because um, they believe that it's possible, right? They look around and they see other people that are being successful and they come in and go, hey, if they can do it, if they can figure it out, if this person over here, that business over there, then I can do it, right? So a core belief would be anything that anyone can do, I can do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what's fun is that if we were talking about making it in the NBA, that belief doesn't hold water, right? You can't do anything. If I'm 5'11", I can't do the things that a 6'6" guy can do, right?
Right.
No matter what I believe. But when it comes to marketing a product, yes, you can. If someone else has been able to be successful building an email list, sending out emails consistently, building a website, making offers, getting people to buy, you can do it as well, right? And so mindset, right? That belief and that willingness to just take action. Um, that's the first thing. Second thing is that they're relentless. They don't quit,
Mhm.
right? They just do not quit. They might do something 30 times, and the first 29 times it doesn't work. But it's that 30th time that it works. And they're like, yes, I knew that this would happen.
Yeah.
And so they're relentless. What's fun and interesting, for those of us who are parents, it's like the same lessons we're trying to instill in our children. It's like perseverance and belief and like hard work. Like those are the qualities, right? And the characteristics that our most successful clients have.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I appreciate that. And again, that very much resonates with not only ourselves having been your clients, but also others that I've seen who have started companies and watched a lot of them grow, some of them fizzle. And been able to like maybe look behind the scenes as you get to know them and see, okay, this is maybe why some of them succeeded, why some of them struggled. And we have on this summit likely individuals who are on both ends of the spectrum, those that are just starting out, those who just have a dream to start out, and those who are generational and they have hundreds, maybe even thousands of head of cattle. But I always get the question, well, there's two common questions, and we'll ask them maybe in this order. First, how does somebody get started in when they just have that dream, but they feel the bug like, okay, I want to be a farmer and I want to be a rancher or both. And then the second part of that question is, they always ask, how many cows do I have to make a living before I can quit my job? Right.
Yeah.
And so I think with direct marketing, your answer is probably going to be a lot different than what some of our other speakers will say, because they're dealing with commodity markets, sell by marketing, and more just looking at, the ranching for profit, big three secrets of cutting overheads and increasing gross margin, increasing turnover as your way to be profitable, which you are doing. That you are definitely increasing the gross margin dramatically by selling direct to consumer, or you should be, right? So,
Yep.
so first question, how do we get started? How does somebody, what's your counsel from that standpoint, Cam?
It's a great question. And actually, maybe it goes back to your previous question on the characteristics that the most successful producers have in common. And I would bump this up actually to number one, the most important. And so the way that you get started is you need to get crystal clear on what you want your life to look like in the future.
Okay.
Another way to say that is you need to have a goal in mind. You need to know exactly what you want and why you want it,
Yeah.
right? And get so crystal clear, because you need something that's compelling you forwards, because the work is going to be hard. And there's going to be a lot of frustration, a lot of overwhelm. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have setbacks. And if you don't have this like magnetic force that's pulling you forward, right? In this vision of what you want life to look like, then you're probably not going to make it. And so that's number one in getting started, to get crystal clear on what you want life to look like. And then after that, how to get started, or as a part of that, I suppose, is getting clear on how much money you want to make, right?
Mhm.
What do you want life to look like? How do you want to spend your time? Who do you want to spend your time with? How much money do you want to make? What does your day-to-day look like? What are the activities that you're engaged in every day? And so the easy one that we can reverse engineer is how much money do you want to make, right? Because that we start with the goal in mind. We're like, cool, I want to make, let's say $100,000, right? I want to have $100,000 take home income. And then we just get to reverse engineer. Cool. How many beef do I need to sell? What do I need to price it at? How many customers do I need to acquire? How many do I need to get to buy every year, right? Repeat customers. And then we figure it out. So it's really, the math is quite simple. Should we go through that right now? Would that be helpful?
It might be helpful for these listeners, yeah, because that is a common question that we get. One or both spouses have off-farm jobs.
Yeah.
They don't like it. They feel torn. They
Yeah.
want to be able to ranch full time, but they can't support that right now. And so for some of them, and I call them out on it, I say, well, you don't have a business, you have a very expensive hobby.
Yep.
And if you can afford that hobby, great. But you need to know what that hobby's costing you. And so we
Yes.
need to treat it like a business. And that's a big focus of what we're doing in this summit, is helping you to know your numbers, start with why, create that plan. But yeah, if we can do, we don't have to get down in the nitty gritty, but let's just say an average family wants to full-time ranch. What's that going to look like?
Yeah, great. All right, so we'll take just some really rough numbers.
Sure.
Let's
Yeah.
say that, and we'll start with the animals, right? So let's say that uh, averaged packaged weight of an animal is 400 pounds. Just keep the math simple. Some of you are raising, larger animals, and you're going to have 450 of bone-in packaged weight. Some are raising smaller animals. You're going to have under 400, but we'll just say 400 to keep the math simple. Now we're also going to start with the pricing, right? What do we charge? So we got 400 pounds of product per head. What do we want to charge? Well, you need to know your numbers first and foremost. Costs have increased in the last couple of years, right? Processing costs have increased, hay costs have increased. just
Cost
our
of the
cost.
animal has increased exponentially. If you're buying
Right.
animals, primarily, you can't buy a yearling for under $2,000 right now.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So your costs have increased. And so we want to know what our total cost is to process an animal and to fulfill an order. All
Yep.
right. And so we're going to take our total animal cost, we're going to add it with our processing cost, which includes like the slaughter fee, the cut and wrap fee. And we can get into the nitty gritty would be like, even we want to know what does that box cost, right? If it's an order, if it's we're selling a quarter beef, like what is the material cost, right, of the packaging? So including like the tape that goes around, we want to get really specific. Um, and so know your numbers, know your costs. It's probably somewhere bigger operations can keep it down around $6 right now per pound of packaged beef.
Hmm.
Smaller operations are going to be 8 to 10. I think that's going to come down in the future, obviously, because the animal cost is so stinking high right now.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago, your total cost for even a small operation per pound of packaged product that you were selling was about $5.
Okay.
Um, but now it's higher. Okay.
Yep.
So we need to factor that into our pricing model. So let's say, let's go super high and say it's $10. $10 a pound is our cost, our all-in cost. Then we're going to probably charge, to keep the math simple, let's say $15 a pound. And by the way, for those of you who have never sold D2C or who are not our clients or who have not watched our material, we have hundreds of clients currently that are charging $15 a pound. We have hundreds of clients that are charging $15 a pound for ground beef. Literally, not just in every state and province in North America, but like in every major market, and
Huh.
in most of the small markets. Okay, so
Yeah.
these are prices that, as producers, we have a hard time looking at and going, that's unreasonable, or that's highway robbery, or it's unethical to charge those prices. But the fact of the matter is, if you can't make money, then you don't have a business. And if you don't have a business, you're not providing for your family and you're not serving all the people that who want to be served by you. Because the reality is there are millions and millions of people just in this country alone who are out there looking for a producer that they can have a relationship with because they want to know who raises their food because they want to trust. They want to trust you. They want to have a relationship with someone they can trust because they're sick and tired of buying from some enormous company that 100% does not have their best interest at heart, that 100% is doing things that are harmful to their health and to the planet and to the animals. And so the low-hanging fruit for us as producers is the millions and the tens of millions of people who would buy from us if they just knew that we existed. But
Okay.
most people don't know that they can buy direct from a producer. They just don't know it, guys. They don't know that it's an option. If you were to present that information to them, they would say, wait, what? I can just buy from a farmer. I can just buy from a rancher. They don't even know it's a thing. It blows their mind. Okay. And so that's the opportunity. Tens of millions of people and all of those hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars in spend don't even know that they can buy from you, which is why marketing is so important.
Yeah.
Marketing is staking your flag and raising it up so people can see it, saying, I'm here, I exist, I have what you want, I care about what you care about. Here are the standards that I raise, here's the quality product that I have, here's how it's good for you, for your health, for the animals, for the planet, etc. And they will buy from you.
Hmm.
So back to our $15 a pound. I should probably update this because we have very few people who are selling at $15 a pound. Most people are selling anywhere from $20 to $30 a pound, and even on their quarters, halves, and wholes. So quarters, halves, and wholes, $15 a pound is about the lowest that we have people selling. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's at the lowest price, but we'll still take that to be conservative. So 15 bucks a pound times 400 pounds of packaged product per head, $6,000. So you got $6,000 in sales selling an animal. Okay. And this is selling like a quarter half for a whole.
Yep.
Okay. This is what people pay. This is what literally our hundreds of clients sell many, many, many thousands of these quarters, halves, and wholes at these premium prices every year.
Hmm.
And so $6,000, and we've got that little bit of margin. There's $5 a pound in margin there. So there's $2,000 in margin per head at that price. And so again, we'll keep it really rough, but what do you need to make? What's your goal? Let's say you and your spouse both work in town off-farm jobs and you want to bring back your wife, right? Maybe she drives a school bus or she teaches part-time or she's got some job at the hair salon and you want to bring her back so she can be full-time on the farm.
Hmm.
And maybe she'll do a lot of the marketing, she'll do a lot of the fulfillment, the order fulfillment, that sort of thing. And so if you're trying to replace let's say a $2,000 a month part-time income to bring your wife full-time back on the farm, as you can see, that's only selling 1 to 2 beef, right?
Mhm.
1 to 2 beef a month at these very conservative numbers, right? This changes dramatically if you actually sell at the pricing that we have our clients sell at. So let's
Okay.
bump up from $15 a pound to $20 a pound, and all of a sudden you go from $2,000 in margin to $4,000 per head,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And $4,000 a head, you're definitely bringing that spouse back, right? And so it's whatever you need, and then you just design the life that you want to live, right? Maybe you've got a great job and you love the job and it's got great benefits, and so you are not necessarily looking at replacing your job, but you would like to add another $100,000 a year in income.
Hmm.
So in this model, at the $2,000, it's roughly 50 head a year, right? At the 4,000, it's roughly 25 head a year. And so even if we break that up into each animal is 4 quarters, that's 4 customers, then it's 100 people that buy from you a year, right? 100 people buying a quarter beef from you per year gives you about 100,000 bucks, right?
Yeah.
And we can finagle the numbers and say, sure, but that's not all take home. It's not all take home. That's right. But the point is, the math is actually quite simple, right? It's simple math. So just determine what is it that you want in your life? Because not everybody wants, to make $1 million selling beef.
Yeah.
Most people, in my experience, they just want to make another 60 to $100,000 a year.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. I appreciate you going through that exercise and breaking it down. I think it's very applicable, regardless of the scale that you're at.
Mhm.
It's simple. And so you exhibit extreme confidence in the ability for people to be able to sell at that margin.
Mhm.
And I assume that confidence comes from seeing it done, right?
Mhm.
Am I right? Is that how you can speak with such boldness and confidence and saying, are there any limitations on that? Are there any reasons that you would see that some people say, well, we're
Mhm.
about as rural as we can get. I know there's more rural parts of Nevada,
Yeah.
but some of our customers are going to be uh, we're 2 hours away, 4 hours away from a USDA inspected plant. Are there any limitations, any caveats, anything that you would say, well, maybe it won't work here in North America? I mean,
Mhm.
we probably can't speak to other countries, but in North America, anything that you would say, okay, this beware of this if this is the situation, or maybe it's not the deal here.
Yeah, great question. So I wouldn't call them limitations. I would call them considerations,
Okay,
right?
like that.
And maybe that's my optimistic, positive outlook on, but I would just call them considerations. So certainly where you live is a consideration, your access to markets, right? Certainly whether or not you ship is a consideration. Your access to a processing facility, right? USDA or otherwise, depending
Yep.
on if you want to sell in-state, if you want to sell bulk, if you want to sell out of state, across state lines or province lines in Canada. So these are all considerations, right? That you want to factor into kind of the plan, right? What's the plan that we're going to go and execute on? And so we could break these down individually if you'd like, Jared. But so for example, let's say like you live basically in the middle of nowhere. You're way out there, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're not going to be able to sell into your local community at those kind of prices. You might not be able to sell into your local community at all because there's only 1,000 people that live in your county, and every one of them raises beef, and
Yep.
so it's not that local market is not an option. But this is one of the reasons that I'm so optimistic about the future of D2C and having these businesses is that you don't have to just sell to your local market. You can access any market in North America, any market in the United States, certainly. And the considerations to make around accessing those markets are shipping and processing. Processing is the biggest one by far.
Hmm.
Shipping is really not a challenge if you know what to do. Most people, though, have no idea what to do, as well they shouldn't because they've never done it before,
Yeah.
right? So how would they know what to do? Shipping is relatively straightforward, and anybody can ship. Anybody can make shipping work at these prices. 100% conclusively, it's not even up for debate. You can make it work. There's just different things that you have to consider, right? Pricing being the primary one.
Yep.
Um, but because of shipping, then you can sell in any market that you want to. Some markets are better than others. Some markets you'll be able to speak to better than others. So really the big consideration here is processing, right?
Mm.
That's the biggest one. Um, but it's a consideration, not a limitation. And I say that because, like you, we don't have, or at the time, we struggled with processing, right? Especially COVID, basically everybody struggled with processing.
Yeah.
So that really um, it limited a lot of people, their mindset around what was possible because all of a sudden, 1 week to the next, processors were booked out 12 to 24 months in advance. And people started believing that, oh, I can't make a living. There's no way that people won't buy if they can't get it fulfilled for a long time. Now, what we did, I think this is a little bit before you and Selena joined Customers on Demand, but we started having our customers take deposits
Hmm.
and sometimes a pay in full, pay it. So people were paying for their quarters, halves, and whole in full, months in advance. I think our record was 18 months in advance. Um, and so that solved that problem. And so that's why I say it's not a limitation, it's just a consideration because there's always workarounds.
Yeah.
But certainly we should acknowledge that processing is a huge challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, thanks for dispelling those myths and kind of along those lines. And then we've got just a couple other questions, and then we'll talk about how to work with you, um, for those that are interested. Can you talk a little bit about food security? What do you see as the answers to food security,
Hmm.
specifically in the US?
You bet. Obviously, COVID again, this really shined a light on how vulnerable the country is when it
Yep.
comes to getting food into the tables of the people who need it most. Which again is another reason why I think we have such an incredible opportunity, is that you had an entire population, essentially the whole world, but certainly all of North America at once went, oh, we can't rely on grocery stores to feed our families, right? And so you had everyone at once, hundreds of millions of people open up and go, oh my gosh, what I thought was true is not actually true.
Yeah.
And so talk about an opportunity, right? Like, what an opportunity. Um, COVID was an absolute boon for producers if or as long as they saw it as an opportunity and not as a limitation.
Mhm.
So I think the future of food security is decentralized, right?
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. It's what is happening. We see it because the decentralization of the food system can take many forms, and it certainly is taking the form of more people are homesteading, more people are raising their own food,
Hmm.
and at the same time, more people are buying directly from. So I think that's the future. I don't think that's going to change. I think that we're always going to have these giant companies that are dominating the industry, that are dominating the landscape, that are trying to lobby for laws that are contrary or that hurt producers. That's not going to go away. That's just something that we live with. That is a part of the good fight that we're fighting. And
Hmm.
it's a badge of honor that you can wear very proudly that in spite of all the adversity, in spite of the challenges and all of the powers that be, that 100% don't want me to be successful, I can be successful. So it's kind of this idea of like um, the heroic rancher, the heroic producer, right? Is that you're bucking the trend. You are, hence the name of our company, Farm Rebel. You are rebelling against the societal norms. You're rebelling against the people that want to tell you what you can and can't do. For me, that gets me fired up. I do not want to be limited by someone else's belief, by someone else's decision, by someone else's laws.
Hmm.
And having said that, I do obey all of the laws and I sustain all of our politicians and 100% support America and all of our policies that I support America. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's what I think the future of the food system and supply is.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. That's when asked, well, you were there, and when we asked Joel Salatin the question, can regenerative agriculture feed the world? And I've been asked that question many times, and it all comes down to that answer, that under the current system, maybe not. Really we can't. But if we change the system and you're leading the way in a profitable way to be able to do that, and I think that's why this message is so critical for this group of individuals, right?
Mhm.
Already in agriculture, we're a minority of a minority of a minor. I mean, we don't even. make a bleep on a statistic chart. And then you take those of us that are striving to direct market and manage regeneratively, and we're a smaller percentage of that.
Hmm.
But all change has started by a small percentage. All rebellions uh, for causes of good have been started by a small group of people. So it's an honor to have you as part of that group. And I think you definitely add tons of value to what we do. So this is Selena's question for you, Cam, that she said this was the whole theme that she said, and I think it's all revolved around this, and you've answered it in many ways. But the question is this: why does God want ranchers to be profitable and farmers? Why does God want us to be profitable?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, firstly, I think God wants all of his children to be successful and happy, right? And I think he has a plan for all of his children to be successful and happy. And I don't think that plan is limited to just the time here on earth in mortality,
Right.
right? So, why do I believe? Because I don't just think, I believe that he wants us, let's say producers, to be successful, farmers and ranchers to be successful. Um, because we are some of the last bastions of strong families, right? We are not just taking care of his creation in the earth, the land, and the animals, but we're raising children. We have families, right? So he wants us to be successful because he needs us to be successful. The world needs us to be successful, right? You look at, coming from outside of this industry, I was not raised in this industry. I was actually the first generation. My parents were so I was the second. My parents were the first generation, going back as far as our genealogies we're able to trace, which is about the 15th century. We're the first generation who are not farmers. My parents were. So I was the second generation who was not. Um, and it's important that we're successful because of the way that we live, right? The way that, man, let me go back and say, okay, so coming from this perspective, I came into this industry from outside of the industry with really no framework for how to think about farming and ranching. I grew up in the apple capital of the world in Wenatchee, Washington, and I had family who had orchards, and I had, a lot of our friends who had orchards and they were growers. And when I was 23, I thought I wanted to be a farmer.
Uh-huh.
And I went and talked to all our family friends and my uncle who ran a big fruit company. And every one of them said, don't do it. You don't want to be here. There's no money here. There's no future here. And that was really discouraging, because these were like the best people that I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so then I went and spent 15 years outside in the tech world across a variety of industries. And then I started the grass-fed beef business. And I get back in with all these farmers and ranchers. And the contrast is so stark. It was absolutely crazy, because we got back in, we started meeting people at like the local auction and meeting neighbors. And it was like, these are our people. These are the people who care about the things that we care about. And these are the people who put family first and who are patriotic and who are hardworking and self-sacrificing and who are community oriented and who volunteer and who give their time and talents and resources to contribute to the welfare of other people. And I think that's what this country was founded on. And certainly we are the kind of the cornerstones of thousands upon thousands of communities, throughout the country. And so it's important that we're successful. And I think God wants us to be successful because he has a plan. He's got a plan and we play a role in that plan. And I'm not someone to say what exactly that role is, but what I think and what I believe is that raising families is the most important thing that we can do in this life. And we're not the only ones raising families, right? Farmers and ranchers aren't the only ones
Yeah.
um, multiplying. And but by and large, as a community, we're having a massive contribution to the benefit of our country and to the world. So that's why
Yeah.
I think God wants us to be successful. And
Yeah.
because we'll do good things with it, right? That's the other part that maybe Selena was more referring to, is that Um, he wants you to be successful. I believe God wants you to be successful because you'll do good things with the money.
Mm.
And when I say successful, it's not the fuzzy feel like the fuzzy definition of success where you're just happy, where it's just happy, but he wants you to have money. He wants you to make money because you will do good things with the money. Okay. You will do good things with the money. You're already doing good things. And so more money is just going to make you better. More money is just going to make you and enable you to be more charitable, to be more giving, to be more service oriented. Right? You're already doing that in your communities, in your churches, in your children's youth sports. And so this is a really fundamental mindset that we have to have in business. If we want to be successful, financially successful, we want to make more money, we have to believe that God wants us to be successful and he wants us to make money because we'll do good things with the money. A lot of people who struggle to make money, they do so because they don't feel worthy of it, because they have some sort of a guilt associated with this idea that money is the root of all evil,
Yep.
right? And I don't think that's true. I think making bad choices and having bad priorities, that's the root of evil. And I think money can be an incredible blessing for so many people. And farmers and ranchers are good people. And so you should have more money. I believe God wants you to be successful and to have more money because you'll do good things with it.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think that's absolutely right. And we sometimes pride ourselves on the fact that, we feed the world, and um certainly that is good. But I appreciated that you brought it back to the family and how important that is. Um, I think Dave Pratt said, where's the best place to raise a family? In the ranching profit school, everybody raised their hand and says, well, on a ranch. And he says, well, no, it's actually in a home where parents love each other. That's the
Mm.
best place to raise a family. So we don't have the corner on raising good families, but certainly, I think, during COVID, I was so grateful to be out in the middle of nowhere when it seemed like the world was coming apart, and during riots and things like that. I expressed almost daily gratitude for where we live and
Mm.
that we could be somewhat insulated from that. And certainly I know God will protect you no matter where you live, if you're striving to do his will and do these things. So any last thoughts that you have before you tell people how to get a hold of Farm Rebel and start the process of working with you? Kind of that exploration, if it is right to work with you. So any final thoughts to kind of wrap this up, Cam?
Yeah, I'll just say that you can be successful,
Yeah.
that you can make it, that this can be something that you do and do well, that it doesn't take any special genes, it doesn't take any special skills, it doesn't take, you know, I'm very privileged in that um, even though we've made a lot of mistakes in business and I've had a lot of failures, um, I'm still ahead of the game. And being ahead of the game means that I have the opportunity to use the resources to go surround myself with other people who are further than me in business, who are much more successful. And I do that by enrolling in masterminds. And I'm in a couple right now that part of it's kind of great because they're self-selecting because they're very expensive. So
Mhm.
6 figures a year.
Mhm.
Um, but when you make that sort of an investment, you get to be around people who make you feel like you're just getting started.
Yeah.
And one thing that continues to kind of surprise me, and though it shouldn't be surprising after all of these years of going to these masterminds, is that all these people that I'm hanging out with that make all this money, whether it's hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, they're really not any smarter than you are.
Huh.
They're really, there's certainly luck plays a role, right? Mostly I'm just disappointed with how unexceptional they are.
Really? Really?
Because
That's
I'm
interesting.
always looking like, oh man, there's got to be like these people are just going to be amazing and they're just going to blow my mind and they're going to be so inspirational to me. And the fact of the matter is, I'm like, dang, you're just like everybody I know. It's just you had this unique combination of not quitting, of like staying persistent, of choosing a model that would work, like a business that would actually work because you saw other people doing it, right? So it signals to the marketplace, if other people are making money, then I can probably make money in this thing. And then there's usually some sort of luck. Now, we all have luck. I don't want to remove that from any of you. We all have luck. We are all lucky to be, heck, look at this. We're on this call right now. We're watching this. What are you watching it on? Probably a, $500 to $1,000 device that has more processing power than the space shuttles. Like, so we're lucky, we're fortunate, we're very blessed just to be here,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We're definitely in the top 1% of the world, in the top 1% of all people who have ever lived, as far as luck and fortune and blessing. And so you can be successful as long as you are willing to believe things that other people, the successful people, believe. Because that's really, at the end of the day, in order to be financially successful in business, you need two things. You need to go identify people who are already successful and you need to know what do they believe. And then you need to choose to believe what they believe, because what they believe determines what they do, and what they do determines what they produce, the results that they have. And so you need to choose to believe the things that the successful people believe and do the things that they do. And it's really that simple. So you have everything that it takes to be successful. You don't need anything else. Right where you are is good enough. And so get started. So that's the thing that I would leave you with.
Love
And
that.
then how to work with us. I would say first and foremost, we're not a great fit for most people.
Yeah.
Hate to break it to you. We're not a good fit for most people. And so the people that we are a good fit for are those who are ready to do D2C and who are ready to grow their business, right? And are serious about growing their direct to consumer business.
Mhm.
And who are already on that path. Everybody else, we have tons of free resources, hundreds of free videos on marketing, on strategy, on pricing, on fulfillment and shipping, on processing. And so you can check out our YouTube channel. You can check out our Facebook group, Grass-Fed Marketing Secrets is the name. And yeah, go consume the free stuff, take action immediately and start producing some results.
Yeah, that's perfect. Um, Perfect. I appreciate the formula that you laid out there for success. It's sometimes we want to overcomplicate things, and it is that simple. So surround yourself with good people. That's one of the reasons that we're doing these summits. They say you're the sum of your five closest friends. If you don't have good friends, you can always rent them by coming to these things. That's what we do, right? Pay to be in a mastermind, pay to play. That's a way to be able to raise your vibration, raise your level of thinking, challenge your paradigms, break through some of those false ceilings. And hopefully we've done that for all of you at some point during this summit, but especially during this interview with Cam. So again, think the website, if you want to book the one-on-one strategy session, is just farmrebel.org. Is that right? For those who are ready to take that step.
That's a great question, Jared. Jared, you ought to maybe ask someone on my team who knows the answer.
Hey, we'll put it in the notes. We don't expect you to know. That's why you live the principle of who, not how, right? You've got the who's that are figuring that out. So, but we will put that in there. I think that's the one that Jarrett shared last summit that he was on, and so we'll get some marketing material together, because I know that in summits in the past there have been a select group of people who have felt like, okay, this is right, and some of them signed up, and probably others you helped determine, okay, that's not right or not right now. So if I guess having been through the program, in full disclosure, when I had my first sales call with Cam, he said, "You're not a fit to me," because my vision wasn't big enough. And we talked about that for direct to consumer sales, that was not where my mind was. And so they're not afraid to say, hey, this is not right for you right now. Later, when Selena had the call and she did have the bigger vision, and we had the discussion, okay, is this right? Yes, if you're willing to do this, but I'm going to do this and grow the education company, then it was right. So just a good example of how, when the time's right, the resources will appear. But it's been awesome to visit with you, Cam. We appreciate what you're doing for this industry. We appreciate the good person that you are, the good family that you're raising, the influence and impact and the ripple effect that you're having within the agriculture industry with good people that are on farms and ranches, and appreciate the hope that you've given and that surety that you can be successful. That's one of the biggest takeaways that I took away from this. The strategy will come if the faith and that surety and that hope is there. That strategy, the plan is secondary, but having that hope, especially in this time of somewhat hopelessness in the world that we live in with the challenges that we're facing, it is very, very important. And we could lose our businesses, but let's not lose our families in the process, right?
Amen. Thank
Yep,
you.
you bet. Okay, well, have a blessed day, everybody. We appreciate you being part of this, and look forward to visiting with you again, Cam.